Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marian White, and with me is my co-host for the last 40 or 50 years, Ken Bialo.
Good evening, Marian. How are you?
Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Now, your claim to fame for being on Larchmont Today is that you were mayor for 4 years in the village of Larchmont and trustee for 11 years and know everything about the village.
Sounds so embarrassing when you say it. You were trustee for 4 years and chairman of the
defunct
Republican Party for, I don't know, 20 or 30.
Phoenixes rise. You never know.
You never know. Are we talking about the Sunday Fun first?
Yes, that was such a fun thing that happened for the last show.
The last show, we established a fund that somehow required us to contribute, us meaning the staff that runs the show and us two peeps, to contribute if you let us know that you had registered to vote on account of we urge you to register to vote.
And could I say that we didn't care who you voted for?
No,
there was no string attached.
No,
it was just that you would go out and vote.
You go out and vote, and then we would make a contribution. I think that was the terms. Those are the terms of the trust that we established.
Yes.
Towards the end of the show, I think we named it the Sunday Fund.
Because Sunday is reliable.
Sunday is Dina's dog, and she's a cutie. She's a rescue puppy of some sort. And she is a cutie. She's always there to greet you, always with a big smile. And
a perfect fiduciary for our trust.
Yes, we need a fiduciary who will smile. The terms of this trust. Now, first of all, I'd like to give the financial report.
Okay.
And the financial report is, we started with nothing. We have $1.75.
Oh, wow.
I am sorry to report that the $1.75 came from us without hearing a single person tell us that they registered. We just contributed for the heck of it. And here's the point. The point is, this is a very flexible fund, very flexible. On account of, we can't really remember from TV show to TV show what we were talking about.
Unless we go back and watch the show.
Yes, which nobody will do, obviously. So we've christened this the Sunday Voter Fund.
Yes.
And it has $1.75 in it now, and I will report monthly through Election Day.
Okay.
And the whole point of this fund is for you to please go and register and then to vote in the election in November. That's the key. With this money, starting right now with $1.75, with this money, we, I believe, have resolved, that's today's terms of the trust, we have resolved that we will send Sunday to school so that she can learn how to vote.
I think you might have to start the school first, but that would give you something to do.
No, we're gonna train her because anybody can. She has long fingernails, claw nails.
Right.
Just scratch in the little spot there. If you just put the paper down, she can scratch in the spot.
So she really could.
Yeah, she could, but she couldn't go into one of those little semi-private,
not private,
private rooms, with a little space there where you're supposed to vote privately, secretly, right? So she'd have to do it out in public, which I think would be okay. But we're going to send her to obedience school. This is what
that's if
today's
there's no
idea.
winner.
Yeah.
So we have many months.
If there's no winner, but who would win this?
Well,
we're collecting money.
If someone votes
yes.
because of us.
Yes, then we put another quarter in here.
Oh, I thought they got the $1.75.
No, that'd be bribery. You want to talk about bribery?
Well, it's very topical.
Let's see, bribery, how is that spelled? A-L-B-A-N. Why? That's how it's spelled. Here in New York, bribery starts in where? Albany, or it could be starting in Manhattan. Mayor De Blasio, the most self-righteous mayor we've had in, 5 or 6 years. It turns out that he was doing illegal stuff, like...
Well, they say he was doing illegal stuff.
I believe them. I believe them. The zoning on a senior citizen's home.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
For one of his campaign donors, was changed from senior citizen home, which aren't worth very much because they're basically money losers, right?
Right.
2, luxury high-rise housing, which, according to the newspaper, would be worth on the market $71 million. That's only one of the things that he did. It turns out also, remember when he said those poor horses?
Yes.
Oh, it's
yes.
terrible. They have to walk around Central Park and they get some exercise and fresh air and people stare at them and give them apples and stuff. And that was terrible because they were enslaved and they lived a miserable life and he wanted to shut down the stables. You remember that? It was another sign of righteous indignation. What happened? Oh, it turns out one of his campaign supporters happens to own the property in the neighborhood of the stables. And if the stables left, then the property owned by his campaign donor would be worth way more. That's the second item. And
he's a lucky person to know, isn't he? You should be his friend.
You want to be his friend. Then there's another little episode where it turns out that Mayor de Blasio's people created an unaffiliated PAC that was going to collect money for the Democrat candidates who were running against the Republicans in the last Senate election, particularly one in, I believe it's Putnam County, I've forgotten the guy's name, I think it's Murphy, Terrence Murphy, I think that's his name. He was elected, Republican was elected. But it turns out that this unaffiliated PAC, PACs are not allowed to be affiliated with particular campaign organizations or particular
the candidate
candidates.
Has no idea
Candidate
what's
has
going
no
on.
idea. There's just money flowing into the club. But it turns out that the mayor did. It turns out that the mayor
He knew something about it?
He did, and he set it up, and he and his Quislings set it up so that they could try and defeat, I think it was the lower Hudson Valley, the Republican candidates, so that the Senate would turn Democrat, so that he thought he would be able to have his way because then the Democrats would control the assembly and the governorship, sort of, and the Senate. And then he would get his program through, which I assume meant things like more money for him, more public funding for his election campaign, richer, 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 follow the money, follow the money. But it turns out the mayor is being investigated for corruption on at least these 3 points, maybe more. We don't know right now because all you get is the stuff in the newspapers. This happens to be from the Wall Street Journal, which is probably a tad more reliable than, say, the Mamaroneck Review or the Journal News. All right, but there you have it.
But the thing is,
Yes.
there is this friction between Cuomo and De Blasio.
Yes.
And Cuomo likes to thwart De Blasio.
Yes. And funny that you should mention the governor, because the governor's being investigated. Oh no, not in New York. This can't be so. Now let's see, before the election, before this session of the legislature, the governor said ethics reform was the most important issue facing the legislative session, facing the government in Albany. And that was based, I believe, or at least partially reflected, I shouldn't say based, partially reflected in some surveys that somebody put out that said, corruption in New York is the #1 issue that the voters have. Who knows what the heck that is? I mean, it could have been somebody flipping through the phone book and said, oh yeah, that's the #1 issue. But it turns out that during the legislative session, it seems that the governor was being investigated. Now we find out. Now it's what? This is May 8th, Sunday, May 8th, this paper.
Okay.
And it turns out that there is an ongoing investigation. And for people who practice law in New York, people know who is representing the governor's office and for how long that person has been representing the governor's office. And it seems like that takes you right back sort of to the middle of the legislative session. So all this talk, also sanctimonious, self-righteous nonsense coming from our famed governor, just like sanctimonious, self-righteous nonsense from Mr. de Blasio. Oh, the poor horses, and oh, my poor friends that need to make $71 million. Well, it turns out that corruption is being investigated right there amongst the governor's best buddies, friends, fixers, and other types.
And that's how they do it, right? They spread the net wide, and then they tighten it, right?
I'm not going to mention any names, but I am going to say an aide serving at that time as the governor's campaign manager reported receiving $75,000 from blank in 2014, though that is denied. The relationships highlight a growing federal probe by, yes, Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney. He's my hero. I want my kids to want to grow up to be like him. The U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York that has rocked the administration in what may be the most serious scandals in the governor's 6 years in office. Now, is there any wonder why there was no progress on anti-corruption legislation in this term of the state legislature? Because if there had been, guess who would have been featured?
Well,
I'm not done. I got one more. Then you can go. This is my absolute favorite.
Okay.
Here is a surprise headline from the Wall Street Journal, the Greater New York section, April 16th, Saturday, Sunday, April 16th and 17th. Please capture the right-hand column above the fold. And what do it say? It says, hello. Where am I going here? Right there. Oh,
you can
Silver used post to help lovers, prosecutors say. It wasn't just for money. It was for love and money. He was not only a crook, he had secret I'm reading now. Used his official position to help two women with whom he was having secret extramarital affairs, prosecutors alleged in materials unsealed Friday in the former lawmaker's federal corruption case. Oh my goodness me. It wasn't just the money.
You mean that's taxpayers' money?
Sex and money. It's sex and money.
But was taxpayers' money would be being used on the women? On their behalf?
Or business was directed to them. One of them was a lobbyist, a major lobbyist in Albany. Cesspool. The cesspool light goes on. It's Albany. Anyway.
Well, thank heavens for the district attorney who is cleaning
United
this
States
up.
Attorney.
Yes.
The United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. What's great about this is this came out before the sentencing. I think it was last week or perhaps the week before, where Sheldon Silver was sentenced to 12 years in a federal, as we say, correctional institution. I don't think he's 70 or 71. I don't think there's any correcting to be done here. Right? he doesn't need to be corrected. He knew the difference between right and wrong, and he took the public trust, and he abused it. And he's not alone. And not only is the governor not alone, and Mr. De Blasio, the famous self-righteous mayor, involved, but we also have on the Republican side, Dean Skillos, who was convicted of using his influence to get a whole bunch of money for his kid, his son. And he's not yet sentenced. That will be coming out. And I think there should be equal treatment for Democrats and Republicans. There's space available in the correctional institutions, and both of these peeps need to be corrected. So that is my tirade on public corruption in Albany and in New York City, and for that matter, I guess in Westchester, because the governor comes from Westchester, as does Hillary Clinton. Another corrupt person. If you give lots of money to my foundation, I'll see that you get a treaty so that your country can trade on a most favored nation basis. And I'll use
or have nuclear weapons.
Or have nuclear weapons, and I'll use secret emails to transact the business, or have my surrogates do it, and then we'll destroy the emails. What a good idea. Please.
Well.
What a sewer.
Well, let's go to a positive story.
Okay,
How's that?
All right, I'm done.
Playland has been a real problem for the county of Westchester for a very long time. It's been losing money.
True.
And it's, parts of it are very attractive, but other parts are sort of downtrodden.
And historic.
Yes. And so one of the things that Rob Astorino did when he was elected was he wanted to try to address that. So he started working on that. And he came up, I guess he proposed something in June of 2015 where I think the county would have to put in $58 million. And because there's a board a legislative board that has two parties. There was a lot of discussion about the quality of this idea, and it was challenged. You know, remember, we used to have board meetings when things were challenged. It was a wonderful thing because then you moved to better ideas. And so actually the county board voted recently to go into partnership with this entity, and each of them, the county's going to contribute $32 million, and the other side over time is going to contribute $32 million.
Right.
The county stays, until it's contributed half its money, it still has a voice in things, but then I think it pretty much cedes control for a total of 30 years.
Yeah, after a time, right.
Right.
And this was a bipartisan vote, by the way, right?
Yes, yes.
So after all the mushing around.
Right, and you know, some people still voted no, but it just shows, I mean, this was a real eyesore. If you know, it was just a drain on funds. So if they didn't come up with a solution and find someone who could make something positive out of this, you know, it just would have something that was a sinkhole, a financial sinkhole. So this is just, I think, a really great thing, and I'm really glad to see democracy in action, where two parties or two sides talk about things and come up with a good solution.
That's such a good perspective on it, because you don't see that in the press coverage. Press here being left-wing and sort of Democrat, you don't really see coverage saying, thanks guys, everybody, Republicans, Democrats, county executive who's a Republican, for working this out and trying to find a better way than just throwing $10 million a year down the tube. And, and worrying that the people in Rye were going to be so offended if you did anything good for the park that they, you know, pick up and run and live in Greenwich or someplace.
Like all of Larchmont.
Like all of Rye. Anyway, it's really great, and it's a great perspective to really say thank you for the good work, which it really was. Hard work, man. It took a long time. Remember, there was a deal like 2 years ago, then that deal got scuttled. People from Rye came in and said, oh, no, this is no good. And
Well, because they were going to do something to the parking lot. They were going to make it plain.
I don't remember. I can't remember from week to week on the Sunday fund. I don't remember that.
That fills your brain. Well, so that's really good news.
Well done, well done.
And then one more group that needs congratulations, I feel, is the Mamaroneck School District. The vote on the budget is May 17th. And the budget actually is lower by $740,000 than the future budget is lower by that amount than the current budget. So it is.
But they've maintained all of the teachers and the
Well,
programs.
they've accommodated increased K-12 enrollment. So I just.
But it's not like they're firing a bunch of teachers to do this.
No, not at all.
I mean, they're not, at least in the document, right? They're not saying we're getting rid of a lot of stuff. They're saying we managed to slim down costs. Probably you have younger teachers now who, by definition, are earlier in their careers and earn less on the scale. So it may be that some of the older teachers or administrators are retiring.
Well, they do say that this can't go on forever, being under the tax cap, and so that, well, the property tax cap limits our district's ability to keep pace with growing enrollment and rising contractual costs. Despite our vigilance, we may need to consider a tax override in future years, but they've certainly tried very hard to
They've done this
keep
a couple
things
years
under
in a row,
control.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They've really done a very good
I
job.
got a check, and it was thanks to them.
I'm sorry?
No, a refund check from them being under the property cap.
You did?
Yeah. Well, everyone did.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, somebody in my house just took it.
Took it.
Took it and whisked it off to Amazon.com.
I've only
or
received
something.
one, but
Was it big?
I don't know, $500 or
No
something.
way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta ask.
I wish the
Oh,
village.
no, I gotta make a note. I gotta make a note.
Not on the Sunday fund.
Ask, and now I am. Ask at home. Ray, school tax refund.
Well,
Okay.
it didn't say, I was assuming it's a school tax because the village of Larchmont always goes over, or tends to go over.
Yes.
So
They did
I'm
this,
assuming.
did they this year? They went over, they were like at 3.04 or something instead of 2.75. I don't know. I wasn't clear. I think they have managed to hide it from the rest of us, whether the village of Larchmont was over the tax cap or under the tax cap. Did you hear anything about that? I didn't see anything in the papers.
No, I didn't see anything
It's our
about
trusty,
the budget.
rusty, the Journal News. Of course, they're always they're on top of things so that you're aware of what you should be aware of. Oh yeah, they're dynamite.
So we've done ethics reform
Yes.
to death because we need it terribly in this state. So what about the housing lawsuit?
Oh, I don't know if I can summon the energy.
Well, try, because it's confusing.
Wanna do-
It
let's
seems
do-
like it's over, and then it
No,
isn't
no.
over.
Can we do that last?
Okay, yes, sir.
In the meantime, what do you think about this theater? The Larchmont Theater, the lease is not being renewed by the movie people. So the landlord has got it up for grabs, and there are 3 different, and I can't read the names, 3 different people or groups of people who would like to take over the theater. 2 of them I thought we're talking about musical acts or live performances of some sort.
Well, major theater talent from New York City.
Yeah, right. And the other was the Pelham Playhouse, sort of an extension of what they do in the Pelham Playhouse. I don't know if you've been there, but
No, what do they do there?
they do art films and foreign films and
Oh,
stuff.
how fun.
Well, it's unusual. It's not stuff that you see. And they had the same problem. Their lease came up, and you've been there, right? It's on that corner. You
No,
make a
no.
left
When
onto
I go
Wolf's
see
Lane or
art
something.
films, there's a place in Stamford.
Okay, there's another place up in Mount Kisco also. I forgot the
okay.
name of that place. Or Bedford or someplace. Anyway, this is local. And I don't know, if you like, we're not going to have the popular movies, first run, first cut kind of stuff anymore, apparently. We no longer have it in Mamaroneck. We no longer have it in Larchmont. I guess it's, you'll forgive, this is sort of a bipolar area. There's New Rochelle if you want 10 theaters, and then there's Portchester if you want a whole bunch of theaters, both
Okay.
of which are fine.
Right.
But they're not, you mosey over to the ice cream shop, then you walk over and watch a movie, you see some people there that you buy
Yeah.
some popcorn, you hang out, and it's different. It's no longer small towny.
Well, for what they're talking about, it sounds like it's a building that wouldn't be used except particular times, evenings or something like that, which the village is already, has too many empty spaces. I mean,
So-
it is distressing.
It is. I kind of like the idea of the Pelham Picture House, but other people may have different views. In any event, everybody out there, I will contribute more to the Sunday Fund if you will kindly make your voices known, and don't let the village board decide this without hearing from you.
Why would the
You have a
village board
say.
be involved?
Because the village board can influence the way these things go, and I'm sure under our zoning codes and our health and safety codes, that you have to get permits for live performances.
Oh,
We already know it
okay.
qualifies as a movie theater because it was a movie theater.
Right.
So if the Pelham Picture House kind of moved in there, you'd have a movie theater.
Right.
But for live performances, I don't know what you have to do. There may be other aspects of things. Certainly there's no parking down there if you want to
Right.
bring in 500
So
people at the
walking
same time.
is the best way to do it.
You think of
Very
it that way.
local.
Anyway,
Well, but it's exciting that 3 people
Yes,
think
are
it's
interested.
worth buying. Yeah,
Well,
or that would be
buying
another
or
eyesore.
leasing. I don't know whether it's buying or
Okay.
leasing. Yeah. So anyway, 3 potential buyers, the headline says, but it's not clear to me that they're buyers as opposed to renters. In any event, speak, and we donate to the Sunday Fund. What did we say the Sunday Fund was going to be? We're going to teach her how to vote. Instead of teaching her how to vote, what if we just bought her a bag of treats?
That is really not very noble.
Okay.
That's
vote.
not worth
Vote.
having a
All
whole
right,
fund
all right,
over.
Okay, all right. I might forget though. You
We
have to
must
remind
be
me.
high-minded.
All right. So how much time do we have left?
I think about 5 minutes.
Are you guessing?
I think it's been confirmed.
Yes, you are guessing.
4 minutes. If we talk about another minute, they'll be down to 3.
Okay. What else is on our list?
Moratorium, housing lawsuit.
Housing
I would
list.
like you to explain that in 3 minutes.
Oh, God.
Well, but where do we stand? The Astorino wins, then
No.
the federals come back and say
no. No. This is such a god-awful mess. For this, we can thank 2009, Andy Spano signed that settlement. He was still the county executive. He did it with a backing of a majority of the board, who were Democrats. It's an awful settlement. It's an awful process. It put the erstwhile housing and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, in Washington, which our maybe corrupt governor was in charge of in the Clinton administration. No. Anyway, it put them in charge of who lives next to who in Westchester. The bureaucrats down there, and I'm sure there are plenty of people here who agree, and I'm going to put them on the liberal side of the equation, are happy to see people from Washington intercede in the development of the markets, the housing, the whole population pattern in Westchester County. And so Andy Spano, who was a Democrat, with the support of Democrats, right, during a Democrat governorship, I can't remember whether that was Spitzer or that was Cuomo. I actually cannot remember now. I think that was still Spitzer. Client number 9, also known as client number 9, signed this thing that said the county, socks on, signed this thing that, signed the agreement that said the county would oversee, that is to encourage the construction of 750 units of affordable housing. County has actually exceeded that number with the exception of one town, and that's the town that Hillary Clinton lives in, where the people in Hillary's town resisted affordable housing and have thought about it, and they're on the hit list. Or maybe the HITS list. That's an acronym, the HITS list. Okay?
Okay, you have
But
1.5 minutes to...
Larchmont is as well.
We're on the HITS list?
Yes.
Oh,
The monitor, who doesn't know his behind from a hole in the ground, who's overseeing the implementation of the settlement, says Croton, Harrison, Lewisboro, Pelham Manor, Larchmont, North Castle, and Rybrook should be sued by the Department of Justice if they don't change their zoning code, because our zoning code is promoting discrimination. I personally oversaw the last set of amendments, in fact, the whole redo of our zoning code in 2003, 2004. And, Mr. Monitor, I can tell you, integration or not integration, separation or not separation, Washington or not Washington, had not a blessed thing to do with what we did with the zoning code. There is nothing in the zoning code that is directed at who can live where. We don't do that. You people in Washington do that. We don't do that. If you can afford to live in Larchmont, and I say that because there really is no affordable housing in Larchmont. Nobody can really afford to live in Larchmont or Mamaroneck or Scarsdale or Rye or Bronxville or Harrison.
Relax.
I'm not relaxing.
I know.
So that is absurd. It is absurd.
So this is ongoing.
It is absurd that this fellow should recommend that we be sued by the Department of Justice.
That is absurd.
It is absurd, and I'm prepared to testify.
Well, we need to get voters to vote some of those people out.
Just holding the Sunday fund.
Well, thank you very much, Ken.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you to the talent
Send your quarters, send your
behind
quarters.
these cameras. Yes, and let us know if we've inspired you to go vote. Thank you so much.